Also, you have two letters, one for public session, which is a request to open negotiations from the NEA and the local faculty, and also one letter for non-public session, which has to do with a personnel issue.
Okay. Minutes of September 11th, 2017. Entertain a motion to accept as stated.
So moved.
Second?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And principal's report.
Hey there. Well, Mother Nature has performed really well for us this year, especially for our field trips. On Thursday and Friday, I have a lot of wonderful field trips to share about, but I'll go through really quickly. Thursday and Friday, the 14th and 15th, the sixth graders attended the Star Island field trip, which launches this big integrated ocean project. Students learn about the microorganisms. Most of the experience this year was right on Star Island with UNH teachers providing 3 different sessions. In addition to the science, there was a session on New Hampshire poet Celia Thaxter, and we got to see where she used to stay out on Star Island. On the second day of the trip, students visited the Jackson Laboratory on the estuary, where they could really see and feel the 2 different ecosystems. A lot of it was based on the ocean ecosystem and then on the estuary ecosystem. It was a great trip, and it gets better every year. The connection with UNH has been awesome as far as just the level of the instruction. It's great for them to have that exposure. One of the gentlemen that we had was an expert on the oysters in the bay. It was fascinating, and that connected directly with one of the students' summer reading. So that was very fun. On the same dates, the 7th grade visit Geneva Point on Lake Winnipesaukee. And in addition to collecting and analyzing water samples, students paint watercolors and contribute to a beautiful brochure for Geneva Point. Students participate in many activities around leadership and listening, all important lifelong skills. On Friday, September 22nd, 5th graders hiked up Cardigan Mountain, or they explored D Acres, which is a permaculture farm, very cool. And the whole purpose of the trip was really an opportunity for students to look at their surroundings and either a location and start to develop details around using their senses for a realistic fiction narrative story that they're writing, in addition to a lot of the science again. That same Friday, it gets quiet in the building when we have all these field trips, but on that same Friday, the 2nd graders hiked Rattlesnake Mountain. That's new for us, a new addition for us. And again, in science, the students are learning more about living and non-living things. Scientist Amy Bailey joined our students on that hike and pointed out along the way the variety of living things and non-living things. And students are now working on thank you notes for their writing piece to Mrs. Bailey. On Thursday, September 28th, 1st graders made their annual trip to Windy Ridge Apple Orchard and working again on an integrated project that includes math, science, writing, and reading. And on Friday, September 29th, kindergartners headed to Beans and Greens, same kind of integrated project, but using pumpkins as their main focus. Tomorrow, 4th grade is heading to Lost River for a guided tour. Beth Wilkie, our media specialist, started her educational career at Lost River, so she has the inside scoop and goes on the tour with them. And I don't know if you've ever been there before. It's definitely worth the visit. It's a beautiful, very well done, all through the caves and the rocks and gullies. So I know you've been there for sure. Did you do the lemon squeeze?
No.
There's a tricky lemon squeeze. You probably could have done that, no problem. But the trips are really important to our vibrant learning community, so thank you very much for your support and making sure those happen. So We recently received the science kneecaps. Last spring, our 4th and 8th graders took these assessments. This will be the final year for the 4th grade assessment as it's migrating to 5th grade. Highlights from this round include both of our 4th and 8th graders did score 2 points above the state average and scored above the state average in earth, space science, life science, inquiry. 4th grade did a great job on physical science, and the 8th grade came in just about the state average. So overall, a decent performance. For the past 3 years, New Hampshire has been part of the national consortium called Smarter Balanced as our state accountability system. We're no longer part of that consortium. Instead, our learners will be taking the New Hampshire statewide assessments, otherwise known as SAS. The assessments will be given in the spring and will not take as much time as the assessments have in the past, about an hour less time overall and quite a bit less time for science. So we're excited about that because we felt like we were spending a lot of time with these assessments. And with all of similarly, we've just completed a round of benchmarks that we do every year at the beginning of the school year, in addition to our field trips. And those parent assessment letters that we have will be going home this month. So parents will be able to see how students are doing on those benchmark assessments. We are excited for our year 3 cohort from Plymouth State University. The concept of a year-long internship that includes student teaching has expanded throughout our SAU 48 with Assistant Superintendent Dr. Gatiss coordinating PES teachers and other teachers for participating in this kind of internship process. Kim King in kindergarten, Kristen Kilduff in 1st grade, Jill Perkins in 4th grades are taking on a student intern, and that has started September 15th. The interns that we have from the interviews are high achievers and will receive outstanding mentoring from our teachers. They also provide opportunities for us to work in small group instruction, so they're a great asset to our community as well. I have a couple of athletic updates, exciting, that I want to share as well. Kelly is at an athletic event right now, so I'm excited to pitch in. Mr. Underwood wanted to highlight the cross-country team. As they had exciting meets last week, the teams ran at the 17th annual Kennett Invitational on Tuesday, September 26th. The girls' team claimed top honors as they beat 11 other schools from around New Hampshire and Maine. Once again, Karina Flynn led the pack of 72 to take first place in a time of 14:15. This is the 3rd year in a row that Karina has won this event. Rounding out the top 20 finishers and helping the team to that first place win was Annie Flynn in 4th place, Lydia Marinowski in 9th place, Reagan Sutherland in 13th place, Kelsey Main in 14th place. Coach Greenler said that Abby Park and Addie England also finished within the top 20. 4 other runners also posted personal best times: Leah Bisson, Ainsley Gerard, Natalie Boyer, and Lillian Guarneri. The PES boys team also did well as they ran to an overall 4th place finish. Luke Bisson led the team with 11th place finish out of 83 runners. In the boys field, and Leo Ebner placed 28th with the others not far behind. Coach Greenler noted that the boys worked hard and had great races as well. On September 28th, the teams ran at the Newfound Invitational. The boys team had a season best 3rd place finish led by Luke Bisson. The boys team was only 2 points away from the runner-up trophy. PES will host our own invitational on October 12th, so it's a great event at PES. We had a great fire drill and record time, so we do have some great dates. Firefighter Phil is coming on October 9th. October 17th and 18th, we have the poetry guy, Ted Shue. And November 3rd, we have our SAU 48 middle school dance. So,
Thank you. Any questions for Julie? Thank you. Privilege of the floor, one.
I'm going to ask again about the music teacher position, whether you've had any more thoughts on that, or we've given money away to somebody else, which is upsetting. But my other question is, why not have a music teacher intern, like a student teacher, so that may help with helping
yeah.
with that.
We have a good relationship with Holly Oliver down at the PSU. She sends her students here every year. And we did talk, Mr. Stevens and I have talked about the program. He is super excited about this spring. There's a symphony program coming to the university, so he actually wants to take on the recorders. It pulls in the student recorders, so he wants to continue with that piece. So we're looking for some support with the square dancing. To be honest, we haven't looked intensely at that piece right now, but that's where we're at. We've had the conversation. Mr. Stevens did go down, talk to Holly Oliver, and right at this moment, she didn't have a recommendation for someone specifically for our program.
Anybody else? No? Thank you. Hey, consent items, claims and payroll. We all signed off on correspondence, revenue update.
Yes, I wanted to let you know we're starting to hear from the Department of Revenue Administration, and those forms I handed you out looks like that. As you know, the adequacy formula, there are two things click in for adequacy. One is total enrollment, and our enrollment is down, will be down 10 students from this time last year. So you can recognize in Plymouth a portion of that number, 24,359, being down from budget estimates. A portion of that is part of enrollment. And then another portion of it is, there's a piece of that called stabilization. Remember, there's a component in there that has, you get money for every student in your building. And the other piece was a reflection of support to property poor towns. The court has ruled that, and there was a cap on money that went to communities, so you couldn't lose all your stabilization at once. So it was phased out, and so we're beginning to lose 5%. I have competition with what's ever over my shoulder.
Take care of it.
So we have the stabilization money. Well, that stabilization money is going down 5% every year, and quite frankly, the state has they're going to pay X amount of dollars per student. And stabilization is eventually going to go away unless the legislature acts. So when you add up the Plymouth and then the Plymouth share of Pemmy Baker, you can see that minus 92,000. There's a potential for us as a community, not just just schools, but as a community to lose $116,401. And if you divide that by last year's property valuations, that's about 27 cents per thousand. So the vibe that we're getting from the state is there's less support for education, and so that is going to play into the tax rate. So there are a number of other factors that go into it, but I just wanted to update you on the early numbers that are starting to come in.
A little bit more than 1% of our total tax rate, which is significant.
Yep. All right, so that's just that piece of correspondence. The other piece is you received a letter from Chris Long, representing the NEA and the faculty bargaining unit, requesting that bargaining begin, and he's proposed a date, and Michael and Frank will work with Chris and then the folks from the building to get that process going. And that's the correspondence, Mr. Chairman. There's one piece for non-public session, but it's a personnel piece.
Okay. Discussion items, records retention policy.
Yes, I gave you an overwhelming bureaucratic mess the last time. And the long and the short of it is, here's a one-page summary of the changes for the data and records retention. These are the records that we have to hold on to by state statute and then administrative law. And so you can see there's a summary of what we have to hold on to for special ed, just in records, and then also if we get a litigation hold, and also a right to know request. So those are the guidelines. And again, I draw your attention to the fact that in special ed, the district shall maintain a copy of the last IEP that was in effect prior to the student's exit from special education until the student's 60th birthday. So it tells you the sort of detail that goes into records retention. So, you know, we're going to be building a barn for all these records in SA 48. That's just the way it is. So, these are the amendments to your record retention policy, and so we'll include these in that long list that I gave you before. 7 years of this, 8 years of that, and the whole thing. So, if it's all right, Mr. Chairman, if the board could approve the amendments to the records retention policy.
Need that in a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Okay. None.
Thank you.
Resignation?
Yes, there's one resignation, and that's the letter that you will get in non-public session.
Okay. Retreat follow-up on issues.
Yes, just I thought we had a really nice session the other night in terms of you having the opportunity to hear reports from folks that you don't normally see. And so I'm just following up if any of you had any questions or want to meet with any of those folks about anything that you saw. No?
No, I thought I was very happy with that
We're very good.
presentation. It's great information. Thank you.
Well, John will convert everything you heard into numbers for the budget process, and then you can decide,
We'll now name you East.
prioritize how you want to play all that out over the next 3, 5, 10 years. But you got a good look at the buildings and grounds. Great, thanks.
Great.
Okay, any other business?
All set?
Privilege of the floor, too.
The stuff that you guys talked about at your retreat, is that something that's going to be shared with the
I
public?
have to do minutes for it. There'll be minutes of it. There wasn't a camera. It was a public session. There were folks there. And we looked at capital improvements, and one of the handouts is here. A couple copies of it. You can have folks talked about technology infrastructure. Board took a look at the computer facility. Talked about software. What else was there?
Professional development.
Professional,
Or,
yeah.
I mean, you can have this too. This is,
Capital, I mean, there was
Talk
a
about-
budget of capital
Yeah.
improvements.
Yeah. Yeah. So those were, and then I'll have the minutes. I need to write them, so we'll have those available.
Long-range planning
Yeah,
stuff.
Yeah.
it's actually a very good session. Things that we don't normally talk about in business meetings.
Okay. Well, no other public comment. I'll entertain a motion to go into non-public session.
So
second.
In favor? Aye. Okay. Well, thank you. Very short meeting.